Welcome to 5 a.m. Tuesday, where we unlock the power of choice to shape and transform your life one Tuesday at a time. I'm Brenda, mindset coach, speaker, author, and your host. We discuss everyday topics on here, but with a fresh perspective. And whether you hear something brand new or you get a timely reminder of what you already know, I believe there is no mistake you're here. And I hope we inspire you to choose consciously, to choose wisely, and most importantly, to choose for you. Now, I'm jumping on here solo today because there is something that I really feel I need to talk about right now. And that is about choosing to rise above what the headlines are telling us. Whether you watch the news or not, you will be hearing what's going on in our communities. I'm from New Zealand, and our headlines are just ringing with news about recessions and multiple redundancies, cost of living increases, and there are ripples of concern throughout our communities. And when there's unsettling economic times, what I choose to do, to the best of my ability, is really focus on empowerment rather than despair or fear. And I'm here talking about this for all of us today, you and me, because I need this right now too. Total transparency. We all need to focus on strengthening our mindsets by choosing what we allow our brains to consume, our minds to take in. And if we look at the context of an economic downturn, it's really easy to fall into a vortex of negativity. It really is, and fear. And that only serves to reinforce a mindset of scarcity or limitation. I believe we need to do whatever we can to minimize that, to neutralize that. And I've been promising for a while now that I'm going to get on this podcast and talk about neuroplasticity. So I think it's about time. And this is why I always talk about becoming more aware of your thoughts. You know, as you hear me explain neuroplasticity shortly, you will see why it's such a good idea to become more aware of what you're thinking. You know, we have 60,000 thoughts every single day. Some are conscious and many are tucked beneath the surface. But, you know, your first thought in the morning sets up your day more than you realize, I promise you. So, what was your first thought this morning? Can you remember? What radio station are you choosing to tune the frequency of your thoughts into? Because when you become more aware, you can more consciously choose the way you think. If you find yourself thinking in a negative way, which you'll catch if you are more conscious, and you find yourself thinking in a way that's not conducive to positivity, then you can use a little hack that I use. And that is, I say, you know, I'll catch myself and I'll say, I do not consent. Who and what I'm speaking to, that's, you know, be different for each of us. I just say, I do not consent, or delete or cancel. It's a really beautiful way of neutralizing that negativity. And, you know, we could actually choose at that point to then replace it with something more positive. We can choose to change or rewire our brain. And that's what I'm going to tell you about. We can all do it. It's available to anyone who is keen and willing, but it does take work. In fact, a little friendly reminder or warning here that it will actually take focus and determination to embrace what I'm going to share with you today, but it is absolutely worth it, you know, to get that positivity back, that optimism back, no matter what's going on around us. You know, I've got friends right now in business who are struggling with a downturn, and it can be challenging to keep your mind in a positive, abundant space. You know, we all need this right now. I know for me, if I think about this, and maybe you will too, right here, right now, in this very moment, everything is okay. Everything is better than okay. My family live 5 minutes away. Yesterday I went and spent an hour and a half with my daughter and my 3-year-old granddaughter. I did some coloring in. I couldn't do that if I lived hours away. So it's just a wonderful positive in my life. I have some great clients who are embracing stepping up into their potential. I can choose to focus on that. Often, and this is really interesting, often I'll get a piece of really lovely feedback just when I need a mindset boost. Go figure. If we look for the good stuff, it comes. And I've said this before, so it won't be a surprise to you, but we can all leverage what I'm about to share with you, this thing called neuroplasticity. We can all choose, consciously, we can choose to focus on possibilities and abundance and gratitude. And what this does by focusing on these types of things is it actually initiates a positive feedback loop in your brain. The shift in focus is it's not just wishful thinking, but strategic reprogramming of your neural pathways, the neural pathways that govern things like emotional responses, behavioral responses. So let me explain neuroplasticity in a little bit more detail so this makes sense to you. Now, it's in both of my books. The first book is already out, Believe, How New Leaders Step Up and Into Their Full Potential. Actually, it's behind me. My second book, which is due out mid-2024, is called From Breakup to Breakthrough, Believe in You. And with both of these topics, neuroplasticity is a core message. Now, for many years, scientists actually believed that the brain didn't change after childhood. So they believed that it was hardwired and fixed by the time we became adults. And there's actually been a lot of advances in the last decade that have shown this is not the case, which is very exciting. So to understand how neuroplasticity works, see if you can picture your brain as a dynamic, connected power grid. And there's billions of pathways or roads lighting up every single time you think, feel, or do something. So some of those roads are really well traveled. They're your habits, your habitual thoughts, your usual ways of thinking or feeling or doing. Now, every time you think in a certain way, or you practice a certain task, or maybe feel a particular emotion, you strengthen that pathway. And that makes it easier for your brain to travel down that road, to travel down that pathway. Another way of thinking about it, if you're quite a visual person like me and grew up in the country like me, then maybe, allow your mind to visualize, to think about a paddock of really long, tall grass, hasn't been mown for ages. And you walk through it and you have to lift your feet and kind of put it down. And as you get to the other end, you notice that the grass is flattened a little bit. But if you walk backwards and forwards over exactly the same path, then the grass will flatten. It absolutely will become much easier to walk on. Same thing with your thinking. Every time you think something or do something or feel the same way, the pathway in your brain is becoming easier to travel. So I hope this is making some good sense to you. Certainly do some research if you want to dig deeper into this topic. It's worth it. I follow Dr. Joe Dispenza and I love his work. He explains neuroscience in a way that the average person can understand. Anyway, say you want to think about something differently. So you want to learn a new task or choose a different emotion or thought. Maybe you want to change a thought from I can't do this to I will find a way to learn this. But the I can't do this is just feeling so strong and it's hard to change it. You can start by, this carving out a new road in your brain by, perhaps saying, I will find a new way to learn this, or how can I learn this, over and over, but really feel it too. feel it until you believe it. Look for ways to do it. You are, in essence, carving out a new pathway in your brain. And if you keep traveling that road, your brain will begin to use that pathway more, that new way of thinking or the new way of feeling. We can all learn and change by rewiring our brains. Now, if you've ever changed a bad habit or formed a new one by thinking about something differently, you've done this. You've carved out a new pathway in your brain. You've experienced neuroplasticity. With repeated and redirected attention towards what you do want, what you desire the change to look like, you can rewire your brain. So it's that easy. And if you need to go back and listen to this again, please do. We need all the strength we can get right now. As I said, I'm experiencing this myself. I'm having days where I make call after call and client after client are telling me that they have to delay their work or budgets have gone on hold. So I then choose to phone someone I know well and have a nice upbeat conversation. We just need to do whatever it takes to keep those positive pathways strong. Now, there's some practical tips that practical steps you can take to harness neuroplasticity and help you hold on to your positive mindset. So I'll go through a few of them just briefly. And there are ideas that have been mentioned before on this podcast. The first one I'll mention is mindful meditation, and this can be a minute or half an hour. So engaging in a daily meditation practice will really cultivate your awareness. It'll help you catch those negative thought patterns, or you could use the thoughts journal, like I mentioned in our first ever podcast. We had Marie Strange on last week, and it may be worth going back and listening to her again, talk about the benefits of practicing meditation. Another one is affirmations or visualizations. Now, these things are hundreds of years old, these ideas. So Louise Hayes always talked about affirmations. And I believe Tony Robbins talked about visualizations. So, put affirmations up on your wall, right on your mirror, whatever it takes to get those things right in front of your eyes all the time and to hijack what's going round and round in loops in your head, especially if it's negative. And with visualization, actually see yourself, feel yourself living the life you want to live. Get pictures up on the wall. This stuff actually works because you're encouraging your brain to adapt and create those new neural pathways. And the more we do it, the more we're reinforcing it. Another one, my favorite. Can you guess what it might be? I've talked about it so many times. Gratitude. Focusing on gratitude will shift your brain's attention from lack to abundance, and we want the abundance. So it'll really foster a more optimistic outlook. And remember, you can always email me. I'll send you a month's worth of the gratitude journal, and you can take it from there. My contact details are below. There's actually one more, and this is around learning and growth, filling your brain with something new. And it doesn't have to cost money. There is so much available online, be it YouTube or, free courses that you can just get some new information going into your brain, new skills, new knowledge, stimulate your brain. It'll foster adaptability and open up new perspectives. You'll see things differently. Whatever it takes to consciously direct your attention and your intentions towards positive experiences and outcomes. I said right up front about choosing what you allow your brain to consume. And it's really important, as I said, when there are things happening around us in the environment that can catch us off guard, to have that awareness, to be mindful of what we're allowing to go into here. Do whatever you need to do. Switch off the news. Watch what you're scrolling on your phones. What are you allowing to go into your brain? Remember, I do not consent is a fabulous little tool to put in your toolkit and hijack being able to just disrupt and then put in a more positive thought. So I hope this has been of huge value to you because, embracing this phenomenon of neuroplasticity, becoming more aware of our thoughts, choosing those pathways can turn lives around. I often say to groups of that I'm working with, how do you think addicts stop taking drugs or alcoholics stop drinking? We can change and rewire our brain. So have a great day. And as always, I hope you've been inspired to choose consciously, to choose wisely, and most importantly, to choose for you. See you next week.